Fighting with the German Longsword originally came out in 2004. It was my second book, following hard on the heels of Secrets of German Medieval Swordsmanship, which was my first title from 2001. The first book, ironically, seemed to catch people's attention as a way to learn Liechtenauer's art of fighting with the German longsword, but I felt it was certainly wanting, being merely a photographic interpretation of a specific manuscript. And I wanted a book to come out that would act as more of a training guide, something that teacher and student alike could benefit from. And that was the genesis of the original book. The new book, versus its predecessor, is about 50% longer. Every photo has been redone. And this was with an eye towards making sure that every change in interpretation over the last decade that I've arrived at, whether large or small, would be captured. It's always been my goal to show the public how sophisticated and scientific the fighting arts of our ancestors were. So when we shot the first edition of this book a decade ago, we were very limited in what we could do with the photography. We now had the benefit on this version of the project of using a camera with a high-speed burst mode. So I was actually able to show naturalistic motion, both in cutting strokes with the sword and, equally importantly, with some of the wrestling actions. The book is a structured lesson plan, beginning with how to stand properly, how to do proper footwork, and then learning to cut and thrust with the sword. The book then moves on to learning how to use simple defensive maneuvers that are also in turn attacks in their own right, and then moves on to the actual techniques as laid out by Johannes Liechtenauer, discussing the 5 secret strokes, and then a number of the other techniques that follow on from those in his treatise. But above and beyond that, there's also an introduction to medieval wrestling, which serves as groundwork for then wrestling with the sword in hand. And the book then concludes with an introduction to armored combat, beginning with a little bit of non-longsword work using the spear, and then transitioning into fighting with the longsword held in the half-sword grip. And this is where one hand remains upon the hilt, and the other grips the center of the blade, turning the sword into a short and very precisely targetable spear for working its way into the gaps in the armor that would have been commonly used at the time. My senior students and I put considerable work into producing this revised and expanded volume. I hope that the prospective student, or even the seasoned one, will find great utility in not just the photographs and the text, but in the detailed flowcharts and the dozens of drills that are included in this book. I've very much appreciated over my 15 years of writing and publishing books on this subject the tremendous outpouring of support I've had from readers all over the world. And I hope those dedicated readers will enjoy this book as much as I've enjoyed doing this project.